Our speaker tonight is Mr. Tom Weber, a member of our English department. Mr. Weber is married to Sue, who happens to be here tonight, so we're glad she could join us. And they have two children, Abby, 26, and Ben, 23. Mr. Weber graduated from Le Sueur High School. He attended St. Cloud State and majored in English. He spent a year going to school in England, and he has a master's in English education from the University of Minnesota. Mr. Weber was hired by STA right out of college 34 years ago. In fact, he was married on a Saturday and started at the academy the following Monday. He said that STA had a small town feel, which was a good fit for a small town guy. Mr. Weber has taught English to 7th through 11th graders. This year, he's teaching 7th grade English and American Studies for our 11th graders. He also teaches middle school English electives, creative writing, English strategies, and independent reading. Mr. Weber has been very involved outside the classroom as well. In the past, he has moderated the yearbook, chess club, he's coached high school soccer, and he was the head coach for wrestling and track. He now coaches 7th grade football. Mr. Weber enjoys traveling, especially places that have mountains and an ocean, so I think we're in for a treat tonight. He has climbed Mount Elbert in Colorado. It is the highest mountain in the Rocky Mountains range. He is also a writer who had the honor of being a 2006 finalist in the McKnight Screenwriting Fellowship. He collects the autographs of writers. If you have never been to his room, it is a must-see for a who's of writers. And yet Mr. Weber said that his life really centers around his wife and children, and his interests are those things that enhance his teaching. When asked when he thought he would retire, Mr. Weber had an interesting response. His goal is to teach the grandson of a former student. So we are very proud to have Mr. Weber as our speaker tonight. Please help me welcome this very creative, talented teacher.
Good evening. British writer C.S. Lewis once penned, "Education is old birds teaching young birds how to fly." British author Gilbert Chesterton wrote, "Education is simply the soul of a society as it passes from one generation to another." And according to the Greek philosopher Socrates, education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel. Many great minds have contemplated the essence of education. To help in the comprehension of this concept, these minds frequently turn to the engaging and arguably the most effective of all educational devices, the metaphor. Historically, metaphors have functioned as a teaching tool. For centuries, they've helped teachers to teach and learners to learn. In my teaching tenure, I've encountered many uplifting metaphors about education. There are, however, some who view this subject in negative metaphorical terms, where school is a war and the students are the soldiers doing battle, where school is a zoo and the students are caged animals. The worst of all negative metaphors about education is the comparison between school and a prison. Here the principal is the warden, the teachers are the guards, the classrooms are the cell, and the students are the inmates. Although some students, while in the midst of their educational process, may feel this way, eventually many come to realize, as another Greek philosopher and the father of metaphors, Aristotle, once said, "The roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is sweet." Of all the educational metaphors, my personal favorite is the mountain of knowledge metaphor. This compares one's formal education to climbing a mountain. It is the goal of all learners to make this educational climb from its base to its summit, and it is there at the peak where they will achieve absolute knowledge and wisdom. Your parents and teachers have already made this climb. We know the challenges, and we know you will encounter, and have returned to assist you throughout your educational endeavors. The mountain of knowledge metaphor is as old as the hills. So tonight I'd like to breathe some new life into its tired body. But all mixed metaphors aside, onward and upward. We start the climb in the flat plains that precede the mountain of knowledge. Educationally speaking, this is kindergarten. The incline is negligible, and with the exception of the occasional molehill that seems to turn into a mountain, the climbing is elementary, hence the name elementary school. Next on the approach come the foothills, which are equivalent to middle school. During this phase, the climber learns basic mountaineering skills, and the learner learns basic study skills. I think it's appropriate that middle schoolers carry their school supplies in a backpack, a device originally meant for mountaineering. Coincidence? I think not. The real challenging climbing begins in high school at the base of the mountain. It is also here where you will find base camp. Base camp is your home, operated by your parents. It's here where you'll resupply, recharge, and reconnoiter. Now from here on, though, with each grade of education, the grade of the mountain gets steeper. The freshmen stick to the well-worn trails. What they lack in climbing skill is more than made up for by their youthful enthusiasm. The role of the teacher is that of the guide, leading the climber up the best paths. Isn't it also coincidental that freshman climbers and students rehydrate with the beverage Mountain Dew? Think about it. The sophomores know more, and they will need that knowledge because the terrain is tougher. For these students, the teacher is a travel companion, side by side, climbing together. There are times when a teacher is asked to function as a Sherpa and carry the load. But in order to develop the climber's skill and confidence, the request is denied. Yet, in the spirit of no climber left behind, the teacher instead will belay the struggling climber to a better foothold. With a lofty view of their skills, you will find the junior climbers well above the tree line, climbing with confidence. They know the best routes to the peak. But the higher they go, the less conspicuous the trails become, until finally the paths disappear altogether. At this point of the vertical endeavors, the juniors realize that the trails, though, are actually unnecessary. They now forge their own paths to the peak. The teacher now functions as an advisor, giving them advice, but not answers. Because every climber must provide their own answers and ultimately come to grips with the timeless question, why do people climb mountains? And why do people climb the mountain of knowledge? High above the underclassmen scale, the sure-footed seniors, trailblazing through and above the clouds. Summit or plummet is their motto. But even for these experienced climbers, the arduous ascent is not without risk. The gravity of the situation is that at these elevations, one misstep and a stepping stone becomes a stumbling block, and a slip becomes a slide. You might even call it a senior slide. Luckily, this repelling situation is temporary. But with the powerful combination of knowledge, experience, and unconquerable spirit, eventually all the seniors are prepared to graduate to higher levels. And maybe that's why they call it college higher education. Where are you on your ascent up the metaphorical mountain of knowledge? I can safely assume, due to the nature of tonight's Eagle Award, that you young men are well on your way to the summit. At the peak of most mountains, you will traditionally come upon a group of rocks piled together in a small pyramid formation. This is called a cairn. Inside the cairn is a canister. Traditionally, the canister contains a register of mountaineers who have summited, sign their names documenting their mountaineering achievements. However, let me just grab it. The canister on the mountain of knowledge contains something quite different. Inside this canister is a single piece of paper with a single message written on it. If you were to assume that this message is of some, as we say in the teaching profession, pedagogical purpose, you would be correct. The message reads, "A wise man knows that he does not know. A wise man knows that he does not know." To paraphrase this profound Socratic message, astute students realize that the quest for knowledge is not a destination, but a lifelong journey. Where your formal institutional learning ends, informal self-learning begins. Therefore, on the philosophical level, you will never make it to the top of the mountain of knowledge because there is no top. Tonight we celebrate your climb. It is my hope for your continued success. Good luck. Your mountain awaits. And there is also other mountains looming on the horizon. Don't let anybody tell you they're too steep or too rocky. Because with a good education, you won't just climb mountains, you may even move mountains. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you.